Good morning po sa ating lahat. Okay, gising na ba tayo? So this morning we'll be having the presentation of the flagship programs of our sole nominee, Dean Pat Arinto, for as part of the search and consultation process for the next Dean of the Faculty of Education. Now, before anything else, I would just like to introduce the members of the group of conveners. Mr. Michael Lagaya, Assistant Professor Queenie Redulme, who is not with us right now because of health reasons, and Meg Suarez, and myself. Now, let me give you a rundown of our schedule for today. The presentation will run until 10 a.m. this morning, but we're running late, no, half an hour late, and we'll be having an open forum after that. And then at 11 a.m. or after this presentation, there will be a sectoral consultation starting at 11 a.m. with the faculty members, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. with reps and administrative staff, and 2 to 3 p.m. with the students and alumni. Okay? So without much further ado, let me introduce to you our current Dean of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Patricia B. Arinto.
Hi, good morning. Does this work? It does? Good morning, Chancellor Alfonso, colleagues in the faculty, and reps and staff of the Faculty of Education, and the other units of UPOU. Para naman tayo masyadong formal. What I will do now is, this is supposed to be a presentation of flagship programs, but since I am seeking a second term, I feel that what I should do is make an accounting to you of what has been accomplished, not just by myself, but by the faculty as a whole under my leadership from 2011 to 2014, no? 3 years. If you were here 3 years ago in this same room, you will have witnessed the presentation of a 10-point agenda for the Faculty of Education. So what I will do is give you an accounting of what has been accomplished of that agenda, and what has not been done, no? And then I will end by summarizing and presenting an agenda for the next 3 years with your participation. Okay, so very briefly, because I did this the last time, what do we know about the Faculty of Education? We know it was established in 1998. And since then, it has had 4 deans. Dean Aurora Bautista, Dean Nema Hermosa, Dean Teret de Villa, and myself. And then we have 8 programs, actually 10 if you count each program separately. But the reason there are 8 is you count the Associate in Arts as 1, and the Bachelor of Education Studies as the 2nd program. And then you have 1 ladderized graduate certificate and Master of Distance Education program. And we have 2 graduate diploma programs. That's the DST and DMT, the Diploma in Science Teaching and the Diploma in Math Teaching. And then we have 2 ladderized graduate diploma and MA programs. These are your diploma and MA in Language and Literacy Education and diploma and MA in Social Studies Education. And we have 1 PhD program, but the PhD program has 4 areas of specialization. Biology education, chemistry education, physics education, and mathematics education. Our total enrollment at present is, as of academic year 2013-2014, is 2,608. And the total number of graduates from the faculty since 1999 is around 1,700. I cannot be exact. We have to sit down and crunch the numbers again. Okay, and then we have 10 regular faculty to date, plus around 70 affiliate and adjunct faculty members. If you recall from the presentation 3 years ago, this was 7 regular faculty. Also, our total graduates at the time was around 1,200, and our total enrollment at the time was around 750. However, I'm not very sure whether the 750 at the time were unique students or total enrollment. No, this 2,608 is total enrollment. It includes new and continuing students, and it is the total of enrollments in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd trimesters of academic year 2013 and 2014, and the 1st and 2nd semesters. So 5 terms. Okay, what is our vision for the Faculty of Education? This is a vision that we discussed together. Those of us in the Faculty of Education discussed last year when we had a strategic planning exercise. And we agreed that we want the Faculty of Education to be a recognized center of excellence in open and distance e-learning, teacher professional development, especially in technology-supported teaching and learning, and research in teaching and learning in a digital age. Okay, as I said, in 2011, I presented this 10-point agenda. What have we accomplished? Now, this is going to be a bit crude presentation. I will show you the items that were accomplished in green, fully accomplished. Items that were partially accomplished, in other words, they're ongoing, are in blue. I don't know if they will show that way there on the screen. And unaccomplished items will be in red. Okay. The aims of the agenda, as you will recall, were we wanted to leverage existing resources and strengths of the faculty. We wanted to build and expand the resource base. We wanted to address weaknesses and gaps. And we wanted to live up to UPOU's core values of scholarship, academic excellence, academic freedom, humanism, social responsibility, and service to the nation. Right. So the first item on that agenda was to revitalize FED's curricular offerings by ensuring that we have a comprehensive degree program lineup. And what was missing at the time was a bachelor's program. We had an AA, and then we had the graduate certificate and diploma and the MA programs plus the PhD, but we did not have a bachelor's program. So we said we wanted to institute the Bachelor of Education Studies program, and in fact, we managed that early in academic year 2011-2012. Of course, that's because we had been working on that together as a faculty since the early part of 2011. And it was in June 2011 that the Board of Regents approved the institution of the Bachelor of Education Studies program. And then we said we wanted to institute the MA in Science Education and MA in Mathematics Education because these are the only two missing MA programs given the current lineup of diploma programs. If we envision the diploma to ladder on to master's programs, then we are missing a science ed, an MA science ed and an MA in math ed program. We have not yet managed to do this. And then we also said we wanted to review and revise all existing programs. So we did review all of our programs, and we have started work towards revising all of them. However, the actual programs that were revised include, if you remember, early in academic year 2011-2012, or I think in December of that year, we managed to have the following revisions approved. The revision of the ladderized diploma and MA in language and literacy education, the ladderized diploma and MA in social studies education, and the diploma in science teaching program. What we have not managed to do is to revise the and that will appear. Sorry, that will appear later. We have not managed to revise the PhD in education program. Okay. The DMT program was revised just before, in 2010, just before 2011. So, but it should be due for review now as well, especially if we will institute an MA in mathematics education. Right. We also said we want to revise and update all course materials, and we did manage to review all course materials because this is the first thing we ask our FICs to do, right? And we have revised our outdated course materials. And however, we have not done this, the development of supplementary course materials. Okay. The second agenda item was to increase student enrollment. We wanted a 100% increase to about 1,500 students by 2013. It is not very clear to me at this point whether we have achieved this. If you look at our actual enrollment, we have 2,608, as I said, as of academic year 2013-2014. So it looks like we have, 1,000 more than the target of 1,500. However, looking at the way this is phrased, I think that I was talking about unique students. And as the Chancellor knows, it's incredibly difficult to find out exactly how many unique individual students we have. We know our course enrollment, we know our program enrollment, we know new and continuing, pero because you add the term enrollments, you cannot be certain that these are unique individuals, right? So we need to check. However, we do know that we had 607 new students in academic year 2013 to 2014. This figure needs to be reviewed. It seems a bit low. Okay. However, we did achieve our projected total enrollment of about 2,500 by 2014. Okay. The third agenda item was to strengthen student support services. And the first item that I listed under that was an automated student support system or an online portal for students. This does not refer to the online registration system. We mean a learner support system where learners can, for example, take bridge courses, but also more specifically, we were intending an online student advising system, okay, that will allow for learner tracking. For example, if you are a program advisor, you log in and you are able to access the record of the student, and you can track all of the previous advice given to the student, and so on and so forth. And there will be some element of learner analytics incorporated. So we have not been able to do that. This requires some time. we said we would complete program handbooks. This is in blue because this is in process. We will complete it at the end of this academic year, which is actually this month, right? We said we would like to assign a staff administrator for each program to assist the program chair. We have accomplished this to the extent that we have divided the total number of programs between our two reps who are acting as staff administrators. However, we wanted a staff administrator program ratio of 1:3. Right now, it's one Ruby is in charge of 4 programs, and Rona is in charge of 5. The division of labor being that Ruby is in charge of all of the trimestral programs, and Rona is in charge of all of the semestral programs. We have only 2 reps. Okay. We would like to develop a student database. This is partially done in the sense that we do have a paper database, and the faculty secretary and I have discussed converting this to an online system. Okay, right now it's online only to the extent that we have electronic records, but we cannot pull out individual electronic records. Right now it's all aggregated. For instance, all of the students who dropped a course, all of the students who have an EXT, who have incurred an EXT. What we want is we put in the name of somebody and out comes the record of that person, including, you know, when he or she filed an LOA, when he or she dropped, etc. All right. We have made representations with the chancellor sometime last year, so that the outcome of that is that we now, all of the 3 faculties now have a faculty secretary. Okay. Our 4th agenda item was to gain recognition as a center of excellence in research. How? By developing an agenda for research and innovation in distance education, open learning, and e-learning. We've accomplished this to some extent, well, to a large extent, particularly if you go by the number of national and international research programs that we have collaborated in, and in some cases led. For instance, I was team leader of the National Assessment of ICTs in Basic Education that was funded by USAID and completed in 2012. I am a member of the International Research on Open Educational Resources for Development in the Global South program, which is funded by IDRC. That's a multi-country study. And we also are leading the tablet study funded by OSAID, as you know. So in the sense that the international funding agencies are aware of us, we have established some sort of leadership. And as you know, it's not just me who is involved in these projects. For instance, Roel has participated in the OER study. Our other new faculty members, Roha, Kichi, and Charis, plus Ruby and Rona, have participated in the OSAID tablet study. All right. Okay. We wanted to increase research productivity by encouraging individual as well as collaborative research by faculty and staff. We have done well in terms of the individual research. In fact, one of our own has a Scientific Productivity Award, Dr. Bagarinao. But the others as well have been encouraged to submit and get funding from UPOU for their individual research. We have not been successful in establishing protected time for research. We have had too many program and course improvement work, too much, and that's what we've focused on first. We wanted to implement practical inquiry days. To some extent, this was achieved, especially in the tablet study. But we want this to be more systematic and done by all of the faculty in their respective research, even the individual ones. In other words, we can come together and devote. We did this once, I think. We had a research forum. We can have more where we share what we are doing in our individual research as well as in the collaborative research. We are moving towards promoting student research as a major contribution to research in the university. We started recently with the approval of the all thesis track of the MA in Language and Literacy Education. We will do the same, I suppose, for the other MA programs, the MDE and the MA in Social Studies. Okay, also still under that agenda item of gaining recognition as a center of excellence in research, we wanted to ensure that research findings are disseminated to key stakeholders. It's not enough to do research, your research has to make a difference. So we have done that by encouraging faculty and staff to disseminate research results in academic conferences. And we have supported the publication of research findings in reputable academic journals. If you go by our individual faculty accomplishment reports, we have a pretty good record in terms of publication. And we have organized research workshops and conferences to which stakeholders in research, including policymakers, have been invited. I speak in particular about the 2 policy forums that we have held with DepEd and other ICT for education experts and practitioners in the country. Many of you were there during the most recent one held in February, but an earlier one was held in I think in September 2012. Okay. And so we should have more of that. Okay, this is something we have not done. We wanted to publish research digests and other publications that will make research more accessible to a wider audience. This is actually connected to the faculty website where we can make available research digests, no? And also issue policy papers. We haven't done that yet. Okay, we wanted to build a full faculty complement through the systematic recruitment of faculty. We said we would like 2 to 3 faculty members per program by 2012. Right now, we don't have 2 to 3 faculty members per program. We do have 1 faculty member per program. Actually, the number increased from when I assumed the deanship in 2011, there were 5 full-time faculty members. Now we have 10. We would have 11 except that Susan resigned as of December 2013. So that's double, pretty good. Of course, it's easy to achieve because the initial number was small. So we'll see how we can improve there. We have increased our pool of lecturers and tutors trained in online distance education. Now we have new FICs every term. They go through a training program. We try to make sure that courses are taught by not only subject matter experts, but subject matter experts who are trained in distance education pedagogy. We wanted to pursue continuing professional development for all of our faculty members. How? Well, we are working on a faculty development program, development portal. For this, we actually succeeded in getting funding from the Emerging Interdisciplinary Research Fund of the UP system. And that funding was actually not something we actively solicited or applied for. It was given to us based on our performance in the academic assessment system or exercise, which is something, the IAS, which is something that the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs requires of all academic units. So we participated in it because we are an academic unit, but based on our performance, they decided to select the faculty. They selected the Faculty of Education of UPOU as one of 20 academic units, to which they granted a modest research grant, but for the purpose of improving academic systems. So what we proposed was the development of a faculty development or support portal where we will provide resources for faculty members in various aspects of teaching online and at a distance. And we are doing this with the Office of Academic Support and Instructional Services. This should be completed very soon. And then the other component is the Learner Support Portal, where the work is not moving as quickly as it is in the Faculty Development Portal, but which we are also obliged to complete very soon, within the academic year. Okay, we wanted to institute a certificate or a certification program for DE lecturers and tutors. in other words, our FICs and our tutors, we have not been able to do this chiefly because actually that will happen once that portal is in place. You see, the portal will include self-learning courses, and we can actually it's just one more step to offering a certification. And then we have supported the pursuit of advanced degrees and fellowships for our regular faculty. Sol went on her PhD fellowship very early in our first term. And I hear that she's back. She has completed her coursework, but of course her research is ongoing. Aleta was scheduled, actually got approval, was admitted. Was offered a place, they say, in British terms. She was offered a place at at University of Melbourne, but it is up to Aleta whether she will take it up or not. All right, our sixth agenda item was to strengthen the ranks of our reps and admin staff. We wanted to get up to 5 full-time university researchers and extension specialists. We have not achieved this, but this is also because we are, it's very difficult to top Rona and Ruby. Anyone that we hire will pale in comparison. Not that they don't need the help. We wanted regular seminar workshops for staff, and we continue to be supportive of this. However, and I put this out because what we really would like, aside from participation in national and international seminars and conferences, is participation in exchange programs and fellowships, that will allow some sort of immersion in another distance education institution, for example. So we need to work further in this area so that we can send our staff to our sister universities. Okay, maintain professional and participatory governance within the faculty through the constitution of various academic and administrative committees. Thanks to the increase in the number of regular faculty, we now do not have onerous committee work, each person, and we have unique members in the university and faculty committees. We said we will undertake regular orientation of administrators and program staff. You know that this is done. We conduct regular meetings. We increased, for instance, the frequency of the executive committee meeting from once a term to at least twice per term. There was a point when there were monthly meetings, and then that tapered off in the last few months, but we will get back on track. And we wanted to institute a monitoring and evaluation system towards increased productivity and efficiency. What this refers to is that one of the weaknesses, in not just of the faculty but across the universities, that we're very good at planning and coming up with plans, but monitoring the execution of those plans is not very good. We need to have that kind of accounting system in place. It doesn't have to be well, the word accounting doesn't sound right, but it's just that there ought to be some kind of reminder system, that says, okay, now, 2 weeks from now, this is due, or something. There must parang some kind of calendar, I suppose, or that would be automated, and that will help us to also quantify what it is that we have achieved, in terms of, for instance, in terms of actual warm bodies, or in terms of number of courses that we want to revise. Right. We said we would prepare a comprehensive manual of operations. We have not actually come up with a manual. However, we have worked towards systematizing many of our procedures, and it's just a question now of documenting them and compiling the manual. Number 8, we said we will seek national and international accreditation of all program offerings. What do you think will you see, green or red? Okay, we participated in and aimed for excellence in benchmarking exercises within the UP system. The IAADS is an example. On the basis of our participation there, we got funding for academic systems development. We said we would seek accreditation by CHED and relevant national accreditation organizations. We have deliberately moved slowly on this because we're not sure we actually want to do this. Una na, who will accredit us? Okay. But if we do, I think that, for instance, the Chancellor has spoken about wanting to establish UPOU as the national accreditor for open and distance e-learning. I would think that one of the activities under that flagship program would be for us to subject our own programs to scrutiny by peers, by ourselves first of all, a self-assessment exercise, and at least by the technical panel on open and distance education. All right. And we said we would like to seek ICD accreditation and/or participate in international benchmarking activities of distance education institutions. Some of you, sorry. Oh, okay. I keep on. Okay. Some of you are familiar with the fact that there are QA frameworks, that international QA frameworks for distance education institutions. For instance, the AAOU QA framework, the ICD QA framework, and it's just a few more steps. If we actually ask for, I know that ICDE does this, except that it costs money, and maybe the initial step really is to do our own self-assessment based using those frameworks as benchmarks. Number 9, establish linkages and partnerships for various purposes. We said we wanted linkages with CHED, DepEd, and NGOs working in the field of education, for program accreditation and promotion, for scholarships and learning center support, and for participation in national policy research and development efforts. We have done very well in terms of the third. We have linked up with NGOs and DepEd in particular, not necessarily with CHED. Okay, and participated in national policy research and development efforts, but not the other two. And then we wanted to establish partnerships with other teacher education institutions, or TEIs, for the strengthening of our learning, or the expansion of the number of learning and testing centers, and also for collaborative research and development programs. We have not done this just yet, except that we have partnerships with individual members of these TEIs, but not with the TEI as a whole. So that's different. And then we wanted linkages with international organizations and other higher education institutions. This is green because we have accomplished this through our participation in the research programs that I have mentioned, funded by IDRC, funded by OSAID, by USAID, and yeah, okay, we have 2 IDRC projects. All right, but not for faculty and staff exchange yet. Okay, and then we wanted to establish linkages with our alumni and with the corporations and foundations to get endowments for professorial chairs and research grants, and funding for faculty and staff development. And this is still something we need to work on. Finally, number 10, we said we will coordinate activities and collaborate with other UPOU units, and of course this is all green. We are very good at working with other UPOU units in all aspects, except that we don't have a collaborative curricular offering, or at least none that comes to mind quickly. So I don't know whether that's an area we want to go into. Okay, so this is what we have done. I haven't managed to do an account so that I cannot tell you what percentage was accomplished. So, but you can do some rough estimate. Certainly more than 50%, I think. Okay, now, what is our proposed agenda for the next 3 years? And again, I'd like to stress that this is not even what I have presented in terms of accomplishments are not something that are due entirely to me, and my use of the pronoun we is deliberate. I do not mean it in the royal sense of the royal we or the editorial we. I mean it in the literal we, kasi tayo ngayon. That's really the work of the faculty. So even this agenda, this 6-point agenda from 10 to 6 na lang po. Hindi na natin kaya yung 10. Maybe this is a bit more integrated. Is an agenda for all of us. And in fact, the faculty will recognize some of these items because we talked about them and agreed on them during our strategic planning exercise last year. There are just some additional items that are recent, a product of recent thinking. Okay, so first, we need to enhance the quality and openness of our academic programs. How? We need to streamline and enhance the AA program, following the streamlining of the CHED and UP General Education programs, which in turn are prompted by the institution of the K-12 program, as well as other developments like ASEAN integration, etc., internationalization, etc. No? So this is a work in progress. Actually, it has started. CHED has already instituted a streamlined GE. And UP system is moving towards streamlining the UP-GE program. The AA program is more than the GE program. But if the GE component of the AA program is revised, then the rest of the whole, it is a program revision, right? And we will need to look at the combination of GE and other courses within that program. And to this end, we already, in fact, have been invited to participate in the UP System GE workshop, which will be held sometime this May. Okay. We need to institute an independent study track for all of our programs as a complement to the term-based cohort, term-based cohort-based mode which we now have. Diba? Right now, we all our students enroll for a particular term must follow that schedule for that term, and they are all part of a cohort or a batch, we call them. Okay, so everybody must proceed through the program more or less en masse, more or less in a group way. For a truly flexible offering, we should have an independent track mode for those who prefer independent study. This is being practiced by other DE institutions. In fact, this is possibly the older track in distance education. What this involves is, for example, a student should be able to enroll anytime and complete a program also anytime. And you can do that theoretically if you're not having to go along with the rest of the batch. No? There are some administrative issues, but they are not insurmountable. So we can study this for certain programs, especially for programs with very low enrollments. Because enrollment is an issue if you're talking about a cohort-based offering. You will be forced to close a program simply because the cohort is too small. Okay? But if you have an independent study track, then that's not an issue. We would like to study and adapt recognition and accreditation of prior learning mechanisms where it is relevant, and to study non-examination based routes of admission into the AA program. Right now, you need to take either the UCAT or the UGAT. If you do not have 33 units of college with a general weighted average of 2 or better. We have been talking about waiving the UGAT, for example, and the UGAT for high school honor graduates, if possible. So we need to study that further. We need to campaign for additional scholarships for our undergraduate programs and our teacher education programs at the graduate level. And then we would like, again, still, to institute the MA in Science Education and MA in Mathematics Education programs. A committee is working on this, or has been working on this. We would like to revise the PhD in Education program. We have already had one meeting on this, and we would like to add new areas of specialization. Right now we have 4, and they're all science ed and math ed. We should be thinking about instituting an area of specialization in distance education, for example, and in language and literacy education, as well as in social studies education. We need to enrich our course packages with the inclusion, when appropriate, of multimedia resources. And this is related to some other item later on. Promote the adoption of universal or inclusive design principles in course materials development. For instance, formats for visually impaired students, formats for the auditorily inclined students. Okay. And then the second agenda item is to continue to collaborate in and spearhead research and development. And these areas were identified at our last strategic planning exercise: online examination systems, learner support systems, game-based learning, web labs and simulations, technology and media literacies, academic development in open and distance e-learning, technology-supported subject pedagogies, and academic systems improvement. The third agenda item is to provide innovative public service in education through the development and offering of open online courses, or OOCs. Why is there no M? Why? Because it's, well, we would like them to be massive, of course. And if we do them well, and if we target the right learners, I suppose they will be massive. But very specifically, we are in a position to offer open online courses in online teaching and learning, the teaching of literacy, the teaching of social studies, science teaching, and math teaching. Already, we are exploring a possible partnership with the Foundation of IT Education and IT Education and Development, or FitEd, for MOOC on teaching literacy. The MOOC on online teaching and learning we can very easily do. And we're talking about, with our DST and DMT programs, we're talking about MOOC in science teaching and math teaching as well. We would like to promote and participate in OER aggregation and development for higher education institutions and for public secondary schools. The work on OER for public secondary schools we can undertake with organizations like FitEd and DepEd itself. Develop online radio programs and podcasts on education issues. And provide technical support for and help strengthen open high schools in the Philippines. This is an area that we would like to go into in particular because it's our area of expertise. Okay. And then number 4, we want to continue to improve faculty development and administration. I think that F should be a capital F, not lowercase. So we would like to continue to recruit full-time faculty members for each of FED's degree programs. In fact, we now have 4, as I speak, there are 5 applications being processed. 3 for full-time positions, 2 for part-time positions. Increase the number of reps and administrative staff. Establish institutional linkages in support of staff development. I talked about this earlier. And strengthen the monitoring and evaluation system, and for increased productivity and efficiency, and prepare a comprehensive manual of operations, which I already discussed. Number 5, we want to build partnerships and linkages. We want to strengthen our existing partnerships and forge additional ones. Not just with DepEd, SHED, and NGOs, but also with other TEIs. I think that the teacher education institutions in particular is something we want to explore. Because I think that's also an area where we can strengthen our academic programs and contribute to public service. Right. And finally, we want to establish, okay, I think this is, this is for R&D, with international organizations and higher education institutions. Okay, and we're still working on, these were all of the unfinished business from the 10-point agenda. Finally, item number 6, program accreditation. This is just again a reiteration of what was mentioned. We will continue to participate in and aim for excellence in benchmarking exercises within the UP system and the rest of the Philippine higher education system. And we will participate in international benchmarking activities of distance education institutions. In closing, I just want to say that it has been a privilege and an honor to have served as Dean of the Faculty of Education for the last 3 years. It has been a very fulfilling and productive 3 years because of the collaboration and active participation of my colleagues in the faculty and administration of the faculty of the Faculty of Education, but also UPOU as a whole. And now that we are looking back on the 3 years and looking forward to the next three, I just want to say what I said in an earlier meeting that the Chancellor convened. My assuming a second term is not axiomatic. It is not automatic. And this is not a, what do you call? This exercise is not, may tawag dun eh. Suddenly the term escapes me. But we are not going through this just for, the exercise. It is a serious, I would like to think, a serious conversation that we would like to have. And whatever agreements might be arrived at, these are agreements for a collective leadership of the faculty. No one person can make a success of any faculty, of any academic unit. But that is especially the case at UPOU. No, I think we all know that, and every person in this university counts in more ways than usual. And it's really a very collegial relationship that we have managed to establish, thanks to all of us and to our administrators. And it is something that we should continue to work on maintaining and sustaining. Thank you.
Now we're going to the open forum. If you have any questions or comments or even suggestions to our nominee, just approach the microphone in front and so that we could record and put you on video. No? So any question from the from our colleagues and staff? Wala namang bayad yung question. Free tayong mag-ask. So anybody? Maybe I could start by asking a question. Of not all of the things that were set out in the 8-point agenda in the last 3 years were actually, or 10-point agenda, sorry, were actually achieved. So which of these things do you think should be prioritized in the next 3 years? And which among the targets in the next 3 years do you think the FED must focus on?
Actually, the unfinished business from the 10-point agenda are all in the 6-point agenda that is proposed. No, and if you notice, especially the last 3 items on improving linkages and partnerships for various purposes, for curricular enhancement, for research and development, for influence in policy making, faculty development and staff development. That is a priority. And also working towards recognition of the faculty outside of the university through accreditation, through increased participation in collaborative activities with other organizations and other teacher education institutions and other higher education institutions. I think that is the priority. We have done a lot in the last 3 years in terms of strengthening our curricular offerings. So it's for our, for the for the immediate purposes for which those academic offerings were put in place, no? But it's time to expand and uh, to focus more on how we relate with the larger community. The only pending item, I think, with regard to strengthening the curriculum is the institution of the MA in Science Ed and Math Ed, and the streamlining of the PhD program and the addition of new uh, tracks, no, or areas of specialization. So insofar as the curriculum side is concerned, we're okay. I think we're well positioned. So then the rest of the items on the agenda, including strengthening research and putting ourselves on the map, so to speak, that's really I think, our priority.
Dean Pat, as you have mentioned, I think you have done a good deal in putting up the scaffolding for instruction, and the fact that since you're faculty of education, it's really expected that we have very good instructions going on in faculty of education. But at the same time, maybe I can ask you to be more specific in how you are going to implement research, no? Yung programa sa research, because since yun medyo mapula lahat yung ano natin, like protected time, maybe you can come up with some specifics. Or I think research and education has been I think, yes, we have institutional research, but the individual faculty, how do we get to get them there?
Okay. We actually have started already with capacity building in research for our faculty, especially our new faculty, which is actually most of the faculty. So we have started with, we agreed last year to be more, to set aside time for regular research forums where we talk about not only what areas of research we're interested in, but actually go on and do various aspects of research work, no, beginning with proposal writing, all the way up to doing data analysis together, and so on and so forth. We have started that. It's a question of making sure that it has priority in our schedule as individual members of the faculty, but also as a faculty as unit. Okay, alongside, for example, our regular meetings for administrative matters. So that's one. And the capacity build. Number two, I think that we have already talked about the importance also of doing collaborative research. We need to think in terms of study teams, or study groups. While we are expected to do individual research, and that's something each of us has to take care of, whether or not there is active support from the faculty or from the university, that's just a given. It is important, if we want to leverage the research profile of the unit, it's important and also a part of capacity building for individual researchers. It's really important to do collaborative research and pursue the constitution of study groups.
Actually, we have a couple of questions from Dr. Bagay now, which he texted. But before I ask those questions, I have a follow-up question related to that. Because in the past, there has been a suggestion for the establishment of a center for emerging educational design at the university. And you mentioned that the approach that will be taken by FED would be along establishing research groups that would be collaborative in nature. Do you think this center, how does this center fit with the plans of FED? Do you think is this something that should be university-wide, meaning should be participated in by the different faculties, or is it something that should be hosted by FED if it's going to be established?
Okay. Well, first of all, I feel that any such center should grow organically rather than, in other words, rather than begin with it. Then I think it will become a logical move once we have established a name for ourselves and a track record in research as an institution. No? So it will become clearer whether in fact we need to have a formal center and declare it as such, and then also where it should be lodged. Initially, actually before I became dean, I thought that such a center should be logically lodged in the Faculty of Education. But given the nature of UPOU and our size, it's really something that should cut across the faculties, and we need to think of it as a unit in itself, no, to which all of the faculties will contribute. And then there was something else I wanted to say. Right. Okay. To go back to this idea of such a center growing organically, I think that, for instance, by thinking about study groups, no, and research programs, okay, those are more easily established, and they are not administrative units. They are really, diba? You don't need a hierarchy to have a research program. It is actual research, right? With a set of research questions, with an agenda that you pursue, and then you get funding to pursue that agenda, and then you produce various research outputs from it. And and these are really very fluid. No, it will depend on the research agenda at the moment. Now, as to who will comprise the research group or the study group, this is also not something that is limited to any one faculty. In fact, for instance, to cite a concrete example, the tablet study is actually a collaboration between myself and between the Faculty of Education and the Faculty of Information Communication Studies. And that was deliberate. We could have, that project was offered to me in particular, specifically. But clearly, that sort of, it would be foolhardy it would have been foolhardy we could have done it, except that we don't have the technical side, and it's easy to say that that's only auxiliary to the research side. But or we could have sourced the technical side in some other way, no. But I think that this sort of research is really something that we, all of us in UPOU, should be engaged in. Similarly, I feel that any research program that the other faculties might pursue would be limited if they were to limit themselves only to the resources of their own faculties. So we need to think about collaboration across the programs and across the disciplines.
Also related to this, now in terms of research, it seems, in fact, you sort of mentioned it. You know, the next big thing now is data analytics, in terms of assessment, etc., which I think is a strong concern of Faculty of Education. But at the same time, again, now that we're talking about it, because before we used to think of research as, oh no, that's operational research. Oh no, that's now the boundaries are sort of blurring, no? So we can conceptualize our own needs for research. And I think Faculty of Education can, and the Faculty of communication and no, information and communication studies, together with all the application of programs in terms of FMDS. I think, pero yung assessment area, maybe you can sort of pick up something on this, no? Kasi teaching and learning. And that's what UPOU is also all about. So, magandang malaking chunk ng research mo din, Pat, would be along that line,
Yeah.
maybe.
I'm showing now the slide on the areas where we would like to pursue R&D. And you will notice that these are all concerns not just of the Faculty of Education but of all of us. I would encourage that we think about research in terms of thematics rather than disciplines and rather than academic programs and faculties of studies. And I would say that not only as far as the FED is concerned, we understand, we recognize this. But I would think that all of the other units in the university should consider this in this way as well. No? Certainly these are cross-cutting kasi. No? Of course, we have disciplinal research. And those we should pursue the way we know how. Okay, but with respect to these things, which are all key aspects of our work as an ODEL institution, then necessarily they have to be collaborative and cross-disciplinary.
So here's the first question from Baggy. Are you open to discussion on the establishment of an open high school as a laboratory high school for Master of Distance Education students?
Okay. It certainly is interesting, and the idea. We have to. There are many ways by which we can approach that, but one of the things we need to take into account is how the university as a whole, in UP, I mean, how UP as a whole looks at the involvement in secondary education, no, and also the legal requirements, no, for faculties and colleges of education to be able to go into or engage in secondary education. There are very specific legal requirements, not just for UP but for all other teacher education institutions. You cannot have a lab school unless you are offering certain types of degrees, in particular a bachelor's in elementary education and in secondary education. You have to limit your enrollment kasi you cannot compete with you're not supposed to compete with the regular elementary and public and secondary schools, no. So you have to limit. So it will be kind of weird if we have an open high school but you have to limit your enrollees. Okay. And then we need to think about whether the kind of training and mentoring that we want, the kind of internships, teaching internships that we would like our students to undertake should be limited to institutional forms of learning or education. Kasi, for example, if you look at the Bachelor of Education Studies, it's really designed for education work in alternative education systems. And it's not just teaching, like classroom teaching, for example, that they are supposed to be involved in. In fact, we want to encourage our students to go into, even in our graduate students, to go into education research, education policy making, curriculum development, materials development, and not just teaching as we understand it. And also not just formal teaching, but teaching in non-formal situations. With regard to the MBE program, surprisingly, or maybe not, most of our students are actually not from the formal education sector. Many of them are from the training sector, corporate training sector. and as well as yung continuing professional development sector. No, we don't have a lot of people who in the MBE program who are teachers or academics.
This is his second question. Are you also open to the idea of organizing conferences related to FED programs like SSE or LLE?
Yeah. In fact, one of the strategic directions we agreed on is, for instance, with respect to SSE, no, we wanted to organize some kind of congress of social studies educators, especially because and teachers, especially because based on Ruel's analysis, with which we agree, there's seemingly a lack of a critical mass. No, not that they don't exist, they do because it's part of the curriculum, but for some reason they don't seem to be as well organized as, for example, the science teachers. So we wanted to sort of lead in that area. And then, but aside from a conference, related developments would be, for instance, we want to establish a curriculum development center in social studies education, no, for social studies educators. And we can think about that not just for social studies, but for all the other areas, for science. And there's some analysis of that already, precisely because one of the challenges now for formulating the MA in Science Ed and Math Ed is precisely the changes in the curriculum and in the discipline that have been taking place, no, as reflected in developments in the K-12 program, for example. So we need to think about organization, not just in terms of a conference that, you know, as we normally understand it, but even continuing and virtual forms of organization, plus things like R&D programs and centers, curriculum development centers.
Any question from the audience? Here's a question from our VC, Lumanta.
Hi, ma'am.
How would you reply when our general public asks, what is UPOU's niche? And in particular, what is UPOU FED's niche?
Okay. UPOU's niche is, fortunately for us, the Chancellor has coined it already, open and distance e-learning, right? Which is really a term that captures the integration and the blending of open education, open learning, the philosophy of open learning, the pedagogies of distance education, and e-learning technologies. Because we are in the field of education, the Faculty of Education in particular is well positioned to champion ODEL as a vision, as a discipline, as a field of practice, okay, and scholarship. And I think this is encapsulated in the vision that we have for the Faculty of Education. We would like, as I said, to answer the question more directly, we would like to be recognized as a center of excellence in ODEL, in teacher professional development, especially in technology-supported teaching and learning. And when I say technology-supported teaching and learning, I do not mean only distance ed. There's blended learning, the use of technologies in the classroom, okay, and also to be a center of excellence in research in teaching and learning in a digital age. No? So again, technology-supported learning.
I'm just curious, ma'am, what had been the most challenging beauty con ano yung pinaka-challenging na aspect of your deanship, yung
Okay.
ma-identify mo, and how in this new term, how do you plan to
Address that.
address that?
Okay, actually, if you hadn't asked, I was going to, and I was debating with myself, dapat ko bang sabihin? Shouldn't somebody ask about challenges and constraints? Parang puro ito vision and what you want to achieve. Pero, okay, good, thank you. I think the most difficult is really the fact that we are very small. I think that's the most, that's the constraint, di ba? We're very small. We are all of us excellent people and we work very well as a team, pero ang liit ng team. So, nakaka-nervyos. You know, if you lose one for some reason or other, you know, you feel that. We are one-person programs, as you know, one-person departments. And every time I interview an applicant to the faculty, I always have to explain this. I always warn this person that, you know, you will be a one person. How do you feel about that? Kasi that's, you know, I think that's, we have a very shallow bench, no? Lahat tayo, I mean, kahit bago ka pa lang, sabak ka na kaagad. You don't have time to, you know, sort of like grow into it, right? You're just thrown into the pool. It's sink or swim. Of course, you were all chosen for your ability to be able to swim. You have to, I mean, that's one of the things that I think that leaders in this institution have to have. You know, being able to quickly figure out who has it and who doesn't, or who has the potential, no? And then, kasi, you know, even if we want to provide support, it's really, it's not a systematic kind of support that for which you need time and a lot of resources, including human resources. So it's really the lack of human resources. We more than make up for the lack of numbers by the quality of human resources. Everyone is special, not just in the Faculty of Ed, but in the university as a whole. We are an exceptional group of people. You have to recognize that. You know, your colleagues, magkainisan na lang kayo, pero think, if you were in a regular department in UP, will you even have such a colleague? Excuse me. Diba? Will you be doing what you're doing? Hindi ka ba mamamatay sa boredom? Where, you know, in the regular departments? Diba? I mean, dito, dami-dami nating sinusolve na problema, but imagine that, the joy of that, the challenge of that. And, you know, you're constantly, it's not boring, right? You will die of exhaustion, yes. But you will not die of boredom. So that's, I think, but we need to address that. Kasi yun na nga, importante din yun that we should be able to give people time off to, you know, to do certain things that will strengthen their capacity to help build the institution. Hindi naman pwedeng running on empty tayo. So for me, that's, in fact, that's also the reason why we have not been able to move very fast when it comes to program development, no? Kasi you need faculty for programs. We are trying to make up for the lack of regular faculty by recruiting excellent part-time faculty. Kasi madami din yun eh, yung ayaw silang mag-full-time. But they are very good, and so, except that we cannot rely on them for other aspects of institution building. No? So tayo yon, that's our job. But we need to have more of us. We need to clone ourselves. And so that doesn't stop, that particular aspect of the work doesn't stop. Those of you who are in the academic personnel committee know that we have fairly frequent interviews of prospective faculty members. And then the administration knows that I have been asking them for more faculty items. Plus, of course, with an increase in the faculty complement, we should also have an increase in our research and administration staff, no, the complement. Because as the work of the faculty, it's not just the teaching that increases, it's really the R&D and the institution building part that grows. So that is, I think, the most serious challenge in the good sense.
I'd like to ask another beauty pageant question.
Akala ko tapos ka na. Okay.
Kasi we still have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Looking back, is there anything about your deanship, your work, or performance as a dean would you have done differently? If yes,
Huh.
why?
Oh. Aha. I haven't thought of that. Would I have done differently? That's one question na hindi ko naisip. Well, kasi partly, I sort of answer it indirectly na by saying na ito yung hindi nagawa. So, kailangan gawin. Di ba? Parang yun yung, that's the mode I was in. Pero yung something we did but we shouldn't have done or we should have done differently. Walang major. Walang, oo, no major. Walang major to answer in a beauty pageant way. Okay. May mga small things, na, pero very, I don't think, oo. Yung, a conversation that could have gone a certain way rather than the way it did. Or, pero nothing key, I think. Another beauty pageant question? Okay. Tulungan niyo ako sa beauty pageant answer, ha? Okay.
If you are forced to think in a different way, because you answered earlier that your greatest challenge is having, a very, very, small faculty complement, for example, an administrative complement. But let me give an example that in our digital age, where scalability is a concern, scalability of quality education, and if I say that, for example, UNISA, having 250,000 enrollments, I mean students, but their faculty complement is just like that of Diliman.
7,000.
Few thousands. Pero when you go to their place, wala rin tao. Big buildings, etc., but they're all warehouses because they're on print. But no faculty either. Siguro, natatapos na nila yung trabaho nila, or the faculty are not necessarily the writers. Diba? Parang ganon. So if you are to sort of rethink how we are approaching things, and you are forced to work with the same faculty complement, would you consider having a more active involvement with your lecturers and affiliate faculty in some sense?
In fact, ma'am, it's not a new thing because that is what, in fact, we are doing. Even with our program development, the affiliate and adjunct faculty are involved. And recently, even in our research work, we have involved at least one adjunct faculty member. So we are doing that, and that's certainly there. No, it's just that I think when I was talking about the small faculty complement, I was talking about them not for the teaching side, because that's not what we need full-time faculty for. We have enough, more than enough faculty members who can deliver the courses, and whom we have chosen very carefully. In fact, for that purpose, no, as I said in my presentation, they are not only subject matter experts, but really also people who are socialized, okay, and with very good skills in teaching online and at a distance. No? Kasi pinipili din natin sila for that. No? We are also careful. And one of the achievements of the past 3 years has been to beef up our pool of affiliate and adjunct faculty members who are exemplary in ODEL work, no? At least with respect to course development. And we are, as I said, involving them in program development. Our program meetings include affiliate and adjunct faculty members. We cannot have a program meeting with only one other person. So, pag halimbawa yung revision ng MALLE, ano yun? That's really affiliate and adjunct faculty members around the table na mga 8 or 10 people. Ganon din yung ibang program, no? Although we need to be more aggressive in increasing the community, the academic community for other programs also. But when I talk about the lack of full-time faculty members as a constraint, I'm talking about program administration and institution building. Kasi hindi pwedeng you're one person running a program. The ideal is really to have 2 to 3. If we can have 5 per program, that would be very good. In terms of also of increased productivity per faculty member, no? And also because you need to do programmatic research, diba? You need to do yung the things for which you need numbers. There are things for which we don't need numbers, but there are other things for which we need them. A critical mass.
One last question. Something to do with your reputation as a person. Mahinig ka mundo at saka natatakot sila. How, I think you've heard this a number of times, and I'm sure you have prepared an answer if this were to be asked of you. How do you think, will you have a mellower type of personality, or?
Well.
Kasi tumatanda ka na rin, di ba?
Ano sagot mo, Rona? Si Rona may sagot. Yeah. Well, it would be interesting as a research exercise to do an empirical study and look at the evidence that supports this. Because I am fairly certain that those same people who started out saying they were intimidated are also the same people who, if you ask now, are the ones with whom I have collaborated the most. And this is true not just within the faculty. Within the faculty, obviously, I've had to work with everybody, and they've had to work with me. I don't think I've alienated anyone sufficiently for them to, surrender. And as I said, the accomplishments of the faculty are really collaborative accomplishments, or the accomplishments of the faculty as a whole. But I will, one of the accomplishments that I cited is our ability to collaborate with and coordinate with units. And units are made up of people. In fact, lalo na sa OU, with all of the units, so yon, ma'am, I would say I would challenge whoever, to do a survey, and I think we will be surprised by the outcomes. Hindi, at saka ano kasi, I think yung the other thing is that what we will find, if you do case studies, ang common thematic dyan, in terms of the development, is this. Siyempre sa una, takot sila. And then at some point, wala naman silang choice except to do something with me or to ask me something. And then by the time they're done, wala na. The takot is not even part of the equation anymore. So it's, these are perceptions. I cannot be responsible for any and all perceptions. Some perceptions I cultivate deliberately. Yung pala yung gusto kong sabihin. Kasama pala yun dun sa yung kasama pala talaga yun dun sa presentation of self. Sindak muna. It's I would like to think that most of the time I am undertaking a conscious presentation of self. There are and for particular purposes, which I would like to think also is not for self-aggrandizement. Kasi nga naman, if I wanted to self-aggrandize, edi I will be Miss Congeniality, di ba? So, kung if you are the opposite of Miss Congeniality and you are Miss Hedgehog, bakit kaya? Right? So, I think for UPOU, I like to, well, once upon a time, I thought that I will be the bad cop. Okay? I will be the fiscalizer. There are too many good cops in the world. There are too few bad cops. So, ako na lang yun. Pero syempre nakakapagod din yung role na yun. Ayoko na din. So, tingnan natin what the role will be. Okay. As you said, ma'am, tumatanda na rin tayo.
I think that's a good way to end this forum. Okay, thank you very much, Dean Pat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me just remind everybody that at 11 a.m. in 10 minutes, we'll be having a sectoral consultation with the faculty members. The venue is OC. Okay. And we'll have the reps and admin staff at 1 and the students and alumni at 2 p.m. Okay? Thank you for coming.